big thank you to our SCA presidents, Mr. Cyrus, Ms. Quinlan, for this opportunity. A lot of great information today. You're going to hear from Dr. Terry McGrath, who's our coordinator, district coordinator for science and technology, and our director of technology, Dr. Sean Ackroft. So you're going to hear about Canvas parent accounts, and then we're going to have a science presentation and overview of K-12 science. So thank you all for being here. A big thank you to our tech support, Mr. Grell, and a thank you to Mr. Altman for being here, as well as Ms. Aiken and Ms. Milano from our board. So enjoy the presentations. And this will be recorded. It will be on our website, curriculum instruction.
Good morning. Thanks for coming. I did present to the board recently, so I tried to put together something a little bit different in case you saw that one. I don't want you to already know everything that happens. All right, so what's happening in science? The most important thing that is happening is actually not happening. There is no science exam this year in fourth grade. We decided to pause that to give everyone a year to roll into the something with biomimicry. Students love when things are camouflaged, so we'll explore that in first grade. And then, as we've done in the past, we'll do a solar system unit that the teachers love, and look at those space systems. The main shifts are going to be instructional, not necessarily content. So as teachers, explore this content with students, they're going to use more investigations, more phenomena. Students are going to be figuring things out more. We're not going to just give them the material and have them follow a script. They're going to be given material and they'll be able to explore ways to find out the answers and to figure out. In first grade this year, one way that Mr. O'Brien tackled the structures was to do an investigation of vertebrates, and he has all of these incredible models of skeletons. So of course he draws the skeleton that way. And the kids had different skeleton models that they were able to observe in the lab, and it was a real big success. Second and third grade has been fully aligned with Miss List, so there won't be any shifts in the content. What we are shifting is some of the instruction. There are these things called performance level indicators that came out from state ed. They weren't as timely as we had hoped, so now that those have been released, we can look for the gaps in our lessons to make sure that we're exceeding the expectations of those performance levels. The other addition this year is the life cycles and the weather and climate have required labs. So the required labs kind of became a whisper halfway through last school year, and then were released this year in October. So the specialists and I met early in the year and made a plan for how those will be implemented, and so far so good. We've already had to turn one into a demo because matches 8-year-olds and plastic bottles is not a great combination. So I'm really not sure why the state thought, oh, this will be fabulous. They're entirely wrong. And when I got a frantic phone call from my specialist at Muncie Park that the match didn't go out when it went into the bottle and burnt through the bottom, we thought, hey, let's do this a little different. So yes, anytime the state asks, we are letting them know that cloud in a bottle, we're just not sure who would come up with that one. But second graders this year were also exploring, they were little geologists for the day, so they learned about the different types of rocks, and this picture shows them finding luster in rocks with little flashlights, and this was in the Muncie Park lab earlier this year. Fourth and fifth grade, our energy unit, not only is that our Project Lead the Way unit, but the energy unit is also where there is another required lab. It's called Light It Up. It's perfectly safe. The Light It Up is not matches, it's light bulbs. So we are confident that this one we can let the kids do without any danger, unlike that other one, which we're not letting kids do. And then in fifth grade, there is another required lab that is in the structure and properties of matter. And that one is also quite safe, a little bit boring. But what's good about this year, knowing that the fifth grade exam is next year, those required labs will be tested. And rolling them out a year before the test rolls out was putting students at a disadvantage. So our fourth graders, because normally the end of the year is spent with practice for the science test, with review for the science test, instead they're going to do those investigations that were put into third grade so that they will have all that content as they move into fifth grade. And our third graders are already doing the lab, so this is the only year that fourth grade needs to kind of be front-loaded with some material that they didn't get ahead of time, but I think that it will work out very well. And then next year, we're going to write fourth grade curriculum this summer so that we have fully incorporated these concepts, and next year we won't have to build in any time for review because the exam will be moved to fifth grade. Our fifth graders, with the robotics unit, we've tackled that one, and that fits into our Earth systems standards, so we're kind of configuring how to best adapt the other units. We've been teaching these for years, so it's just a slight adaptation and shift in our mapping, which is an easy lift for our specialists to handle, and for the teachers as well. One thing I was excited to see is that the stars in the solar system unit is a little bit more flexibility. I've told them just to make sure that everyone is having a good time, that instruction is solid, and that we are meeting the goals that we've set. If we don't get to every single tiny thing this year, I'm fine with that, because this was a big learning curve for everyone. It was a shift not only in content, but in instructional methods, and our 6th grade teachers are handling it really well, and the kids are doing great. The kids are doing a lot of problem solving in class, which is not something that they had done before. I'm sure you're all familiar with the note packets. So we're not really taking notes anymore. The students are filling out notes based on their own investigations, which is a much more valuable way to learn science. And we've really stepped up our little scientists all across the building. So STEM enrichment starts soon. It's starting at the end of April. Last year we started it right before spring break, and we had to move days because spring break started on Thursday and Muncie Park was Thursday. So this year we just decided that should start after spring break. The teachers are super excited, and letters were sent out to families in December. So if you're not sure if you're on it, just let me know. This is some pictures from last year, and unfortunately the one on the left got a little blurred out. They were making a mechanical hand with cardboard straws and string. So as he would put all the pieces together and pull the string, the fingers would curl. It was super fun. That was in Shelter Rock. And in the 6th grade, even though it was physical science based, everything looks better under a microscope. So we would put it over. If we want to see what it looks like, we'll just put it under a microscope. So the kids had a great time. So the big question I always get is about the transition. So let's talk about the transition. So after elementary science, most students move into Science 7. There is the AP intensive pathway, and those applications go out in the beginning of April. Usually that first week of April, I email the applications to the double accelerated math students. Those are the ones that are eligible for that AP Science intensive pathway. That's our gifted program. It's very intense. The students start AP classes in 8th grade. So there is an application process and a committee that meets and reviews scores and has discussion before those students are selected. I try to keep enrollment in that program around 24 students just to make sure that everyone is getting the attention they need from teachers as they move through this really intense pathway. Most other students start in Science 7. Like 6th grade, Science 7 also wrote new curriculum, and they are doing a lot of figuring out as well. There's been some bumper cars that students have created, and the conversations around them were really funny. The first class that I went into, when they were discussing the design for their bumper cars, their objective was to destroy the other car. Protect me, destroy you. So we had to reframe that and think, okay, you not only want to protect yourself, you'd like to protect the other people too. So then we got around to cotton balls instead of nails. So by the end, the bumper cars were very successful. They actually were dropped down an inclined plane into a piece of wood, and it was the wood that they would impact, not other cars, but the point was there, and I think students had a really good time. After Science 7, students are placed in living environment. Starting in, not next year, but the year after, it will no longer be called living environment. We're going back to good old biology. So when you think, oh, is my kid learning biology? Yes, I can say that they are. Living environment is by So that's what they're working on currently. They finished already their Ed Crash cars, which they get to design. So this year, I didn't get to look at the designs quite as closely as last year. Last year we had an ice cream truck, a UPS truck, like they can make them however they want. And they run them down a very high ramp from the ceiling to the floor. And this year, for the first time, we are going to get to automation and robotics. So our students in 7-3 technology, at the end of this school year, will have some robotics unit time in class. Last year, the breach in the beginning of the year put our technology behind just enough that we couldn't get to it. And our COVID years with the hybrid learning, there was not time either. So the teacher is really excited this year to run with the robots. He hasn't gotten to use them either, so I think he's more excited than the kids. In 8th grade, they're working on Tinkercad, which is a coding software. They're working with Tinkercad to create name tags. So right now they are constructing the name tags virtually, and once they're ready, they send them to the 3D printer, and the 3D printer will print their designs. The focus of 8th grade is more design and modeling, which helps a lot of students to make that decision if they want to try the engineering path in the high school. The design and modeling is a great base for that. So as often as we can, we recruit those 8th graders to sign up for the Intro to Engineering. So Intro to Engineering is one of the opportunities that's open to all students. It's chosen as an elective. So when students choose Intro to Engineering, they get to do things like this. This was their carnival game challenge. They all had to create a carnival game that would launch whatever it was through the holes for points. When I was visiting, I never saw any go in there, but I heard that there were some periods that were very successful. It was very funny. Like some of them would launch and they would just fall flat. So they'd modify, and they would go a little, they'd modify. So I saw a lot of modifications, but I think that the students really had a great time. They also learn about responsible design as far as materials, and they spend a lot of time learning how to do appropriate drawings, which is a big part of the design process for engineering. At our upper levels, we have aerospace engineering. The students love that one. They get to, for some of the time, use flight simulation software. So they fly a plane virtually. They're given, 2 airports that they have to fly between, and you have to fly a straight line, and you have to make it in this amount of time. And when the students are flying, they think they do a great job. Then they flip over to their radar, and they see that they're all over the place. And at one point, I looked at the screen, and the plane is flipping and flipping. So better on the screen than in real life. But I think that they really enjoy that. That's our 10th grade class. In 11th grade, they'll move into Principles of Engineering, where they get to do more with construction and materials and the strength of structures. They do testing for earthquakes, and they get into some robotics as well in Principles of Engineering. And then our senior class is called Computer Integrated Manufacturing, and those students work with a lot of software as well, and about the manufacturing process and the automation of that and how to set that up. So they get to do some of the robotics as well as product design and the design of those things, conveyor belt, all that. They spend a lot of time on the mechanics of it. The other program that we're really proud of is our science research program. This is also open to all students. We have an application that goes out in March, and students have 4 to 6 weeks to complete the application for the program. We have worked on the curriculum for our Introduction to Research course as we've noticed gaps in what we need them to come in with. So they spend a lot of time analyzing journal articles so that they understand the research process from an outside lens and can use those journal articles to spark their own interest. They also spend time just getting to know the equipment, how it works, what it's used for. They do data analysis, as practice before they have to analyze their own data. And then we try to let them expand their own thinking and create their own experiments. So this year we are also having students work in collaboration. We've noticed that the quantity of projects it's really too much for any teacher to monitor well because the program has grown so much. And the collaboration piece was a piece that we were struggling with in the upper grades. We were having students who were assigned to the same project who would no longer get along. So we decided to have that collaboration piece start earlier to really help students navigate those relationships. You don't always get to pick who you work with. And sometimes you really have differences of thought and opinion, and it can be very tricky. So instead of navigating those later, we decided to do the partnerships this year in research, and so far so good. They were able to pick their partners for the most part. There are students who, often have trouble deciding on an idea, so then we would look at the ideas and see which ideas would blend and create partnerships that way. But overall, the lab is starting to look very busy. I walked in the other day, and all I could smell was bananas. And I thought, why are we eating bananas in lab? Or who are we feeding bananas to? Is it the fruit flies? But no, the banana skins were being treated to be used as a filter. I never would have thought of that. So I thought that was pretty cool. And as always, there are students working with bacteria and fruit flies, and it's a busy place. One group was smashing jelly beans and potato chips. We let them take their ideas where they land. It was a food source for something, for I think E. coli, but okay, jelly beans. Have fun with that. So at the advanced levels, once students are successful in the intro to research, we move them through our sequence. They do advanced research 1 and 2, and then they move into the STS prep. So their projects become more complex. Once they've gotten through that initial phase with success or lack of success in the intro to research course, they often have a lot more ideas of what they want to do because they've seen their peers. We have expos where they get to look at each other's research. They hear about it in classes. They practice for science fairs. Going to science fairs, they see what kids in other districts are doing. And it really expands their content knowledge on what is possible. And if they can think it, we try to make it happen. If it's safe, I'll buy it. If it's not safe, I'm sorry. You don't get to work with that. But that doesn't happen as often as I was worried about, because some of their ideas can be really out there. But if we have a way to make it happen, we want them to explore that. So we have a really nice group in Advanced 1 and 2. And this year at the bottom, we have Ben and Alan, who are STS scholars. They did not make it to the finalist stage, but we're always so thrilled when we have scholars. So both of them were recognized with Regeneron. Science fair season is getting started. I think we're going to a fair right after the vacation. So that's when my life becomes very crazy, because we are constantly making sure that we're supporting these kids with buses and hotels if needed, and travel and not travel, and it's a very busy time for us, but we are already entered into at least 8 fairs with our students, and we're confident that they're going to do really well. Some fairs we are exceptional, and we like that. We think that it's great for morale, and the people who put together those fairs make sure that we have those order forms very early because they want us to attend, which is always nice. It is also Olympiad season. So 2 weeks ago, has it been 2 weeks? A week and a half? It was a blur. Just walked, thank God, went with me. We did the Division C, which is our high school students. It was the day that it was negative wind chill. Yes, the kids met me at school at 6 o'clock, so that's emotion. We competed, we did well, we're invited to the States, working that out now. I just got the list of hotels yesterday. But for our 7th and 9th graders, we have Division B. That competition is coming up in March as well. They are busy preparing. I have little 7th graders who, their bridge is in my office, and they use the smelliest glue ever, and they brought in something last week, and I made them go outside. I said, let's do this out here. It was so bad. But they're so excited, and it's really great, and hopefully their bridge will be as strong as it has been snowy. It is terrible. We also have available for our high school students, we have the Green Club that focuses on environmental issues and ways to impact So there's a contraption that sits on top of the bridge, and it hangs down, and there's a bucket. In the bucket is already a 10-pound weight. So if the bridge can withstand that, then they start adding sand. So at one point, Frank, one of our students, he ran, and he grabbed another weight because the bridge was not cracking yet. So by the time the bridge broke, it had sustained 67 pounds. And that's just engineering club. It's what they're doing like for fun before school. So we were impressed. Because that one took so long, we still have 8 bridges to test after the vacation. We were sure we would get through them all in one morning, but that bridge was crazy strong. So that club is really popular. The advisor has created a rotation of projects, which I think is great. So kids this year will do 4 projects, and next year they'll do a different 4 projects, and the next year they'll do a different 4 projects, and then there are senior-specific projects. So students that are in the club for the whole time will never repeat a project. So I think that's amazing. And then our robotics club is proposed for next year. We're going to run VEX. The kids are super excited. They've probably written robotics proposals for the past 10 years. So this year when they turned it in, it was really thrilling to let them know that we're going to try this. So we're going to try and run VEX robots. They allow more students to compete, and they also are student-centered. Adults are literally not allowed to help. So with some of the other robot competitions, the adults have to do a lot of the welding and the whatever. So with VEX, it has to be entirely done by students or they're disqualified. So I really like that aspect, and the fact that 6 kids can work on one robot, and we can take as many as 5 or 6 robots to a competition. So it was open to a lot more. And all of these science things can culminate for our 11th and 12th graders if they have really great grades. They get to join the Science Honor Society, where we put them to work tutoring their peers, which they actually enjoy, thank goodness, because they're very busy. And that is open to our 11th and 12th graders. And this is your team. So we have Michael O'Brien at Shelter Rock, Kim Viskovich at Muncie Park, and me, wherever you need me, all the time. Get in touch with any one of us if you need anything. And it's my pleasure. Are there any questions?
Observer accounts. Has everybody heard of these? Has anybody heard of this? All right, so the observer accounts in Canvas basically allow you, as a parent, to see exactly what your son or daughter is seeing when you log into my computer on Canvas. There's a little difference if you use the Canvas app on your phone. There's a version for observer accounts, and there's a version for the students. And the student one is way better as an app. Canvas acknowledges that. So if you really want to get the best experience in using your observer account, I'd say take a look through a computer. But the phone app has its purpose as well. So Canvas is a learning management system that was selected by Manhasset spring of 2019, which turned out to be very fortuitous timing. Because of course in the winter of 2020, the pandemic struck. And we used a great deal of using Canvas, K through 12, once that happened. So now that the pandemic has become less part of our lives, we are still using Canvas K through 12. And so if you go to this address, www.manhassetschools.org/Canvas, there is a help screen there for how you would set up your Canvas accounts if you haven't done that yet. So there are written directions, there are video tutorials for going through that process. It's pretty straightforward. I'll let you know, you need to have your son or daughter with you because they have to create what's called an observer code, a pairing code, for you to be able to then match it up with them. So it's a pretty straightforward process though. And your address, this is another little pitfall we've learned. The address up there, right there, and it's again on that website that we just had, is a little different from the address your son or daughter would go to when they're logging in. Right? So you want to make sure that you're going into the correct login. That again is on the instructions that we have posted on the website. And the first time you go in, ask through there, are you the parent of a Canvas user? Click here to create an account. It walks you through a very straightforward process where you're going to input your name and your create a password for yourself and an email address. And this is where the pairing account code comes in. Your son or daughter, when they're logged in as them, they would follow these instructions. Basically, they log in, click into the account settings, and they'll get a pop-up window that offers them the choice to pair with Observer. And once they click that, we'll wash out here, but you'll get a one-time pairing code. It is case sensitive. It's usually about 8 characters long, uppercase, lowercase, letters, and numbers. It's good for 7 days. So if they create you a pairing code and you don't use it within a week, it expires. And they just have to click another time and create another pairing code for you. But there's no limit to how many pairing codes they can create, so they just have to be part of the process. All right. And then, as I said, the Observer accounts see what the students see. The advantage is that, in a sense, from the school's perspective, no one can act as the student with an Observer account, right? So no one can submit work when you're looking at an Observer account. You can see the students' courses. Each course is represented by one of these little tiles, one of these squares. In the elementary school, the lower grades, primary grades, you'll see very few squares, right? Because they're in one course, they're in one class. As they go into the upper elementary, where they have departmentalized math and social studies to read, you'll see 4 tiles. And when they get to the secondary school, you might see as many as 8 or 9 or 12 tiles even, because clubs use Canvas as well. So you'll see anything that your son or daughter is participating in will be represented by a column. And you'll be able to click in there and see what their assignments would be. You can sign up to get regular notifications of assignments. So if you want to get an email every single time that they get an assignment, you can. You can. If you decide that's a lot of stuff coming in, you can opt to get a summary on a weekly basis. So those are all the Observer account instructions as well. Again, this is that page we go to. Really, it's pretty straightforward. I don't want to overcomplicate it, but I figured there might be more questions. So I'm happy to answer those. So if you have those at this point, ask away. Sure. Yes. And you know what? I will. It is on this page. I'm just going to scroll down like that was a real screenshot. So yeah, it's MPS IT Help. In fact, I'll go live to our website right now because that is an important piece for you to know. So if you're here on the main page of the website, there is a jumping off point for all things IT, it's right there, technology FAQs, and it'll land you on this page where on this side, there's a lot of information about various things technologically, including Canvas. But there's also a number you can call that's listed there, as well as an email address that's listed there. So if you do need help while you're doing it, please ask. If you look through the video or the instructions, should be pretty straightforward. We've got about 90 parents to date who, as of this morning, have created Observer accounts. And the parents I've spoken with who have created them have said that it is a big help. So if you're wondering if your son or daughter maybe forgot that when they said, I don't have any homework, they just forgot something, this is a good way to see if you get help or not. Yes?
I'm getting notifications for things that my son submits on Canvas, right? Like I'm not getting stuff that he's done like handwritten all the time, correct?
Right. It would be if it's, exactly, that's a good point. So the teachers are still doing a lot of work in an analog fashion, right? So if somebody hands in an assignment, if the assignment is submitted that way, you wouldn't get a notification from Canvas right there. So if the Canvas assignment itself has a submit button, or it's tied in with one of our online platforms like Discovery Ed or Castle Learning, that can be linked so you would also get a heads up on it.
One other question. When I go in, I'm still going under my son's email. Should I not be? Should
You should have your own email, yeah. So if you want to even have him create, I give you another parent code to create, basically a second observer account, then you can delete the other one if you'd like. But yeah, you want it to be under your own email address because that's to which, you'll get the emails, you get the notifications.
Do I type in another parent code?
You just need another parent code. Yep. Yes?
My daughter is in kindergarten, so I
Uh-huh.
haven't been the system yet. I mean, most of the work is.
Yeah. The kindergarten. Mr. Robbins and Mr. Roder, you want to speak to the kindergarten?
No, you decide maybe posting a newsletter, which you also get an email, you're not missing much until that point.
Okay, but as we progress in the years, this is primarily for assignments, it's not for like assignment results or anything?
You can see it, so it's definitely for assignments. It's also for content that the teacher might post. So let's say they want to put a worksheet up there, or they're going to put assigned readings up there in electronic format. Or as I said, they're linking to another platform that's going to ask them to submit something. That would be up there. You can see grades of specific assignments if the teacher is sharing grades. So you can see what they got on the most recent assignment. If the teacher, that's at the teacher's discretion at this point, if they're sharing grades.
Primarily.
Yep. Yep. You would see everything except, and I'll make this clear as well. There's a tool in Canvas that allows for there to be like an in-classroom chat going on at the discussion board. You wouldn't see that because then you would be able to see not only your son or daughter's contributions, but other children's contributions. So if they're using that tool, you wouldn't see that. But other than that, yeah. Yeah, anything that's posted on, anything the student's able to see through Canvas other than the discussion board, you would be able to see as well. Yes? So the textbooks are a different issue. They're not really usually posted in their entirety through Canvas, and it's a secondary account. So there's the acronym is LTI, Learning Technology Integration. And different companies, and it's not the Canvas, it's up to the third-party company, how much they want to share information through Canvas. So we use Houghton Mifflin a lot for textbook purposes, and we have some digital textbooks, but it doesn't flow, it's not a clean flow through with Canvas. So the students would have a separate account for getting to their digital textbook. So again, that's a matter more of what the third-party company is allowing, how integrated they are with Canvas would indicate how much you can see. Yep. Yeah, we don't have any observer accounts for textbooks.
Just to confirm, my son is in second grade. They're not really using this, right?
Yeah, they would use it rarely. They would use it basically for probably posting information. Would you say, Mr. Roder, Mr. Alderman?
Announcements, newsletters.
But aren't we pretty much getting that information in emails
Yeah,
anyway?
Payment for
Okay.
is more of the traditional paper passing back and forth through the home school.
Okay, I think I know a bunch of other people who would probably have liked to know that because it's a little bit, we get this email and we're like, what is this Canvas thing? Like, what do we have to do? What is it going to be? How meaningful is it going to be for us? But, to know that it's, because I'm going to tell a bunch of people that I know now that it's not really, it doesn't really apply to us so much, right?
And again, it is basically teacher dependent too, K to 4. Some teachers use it more than others, even at the primary grades. So I would say you might want to make the account, see what's there. And you might discover, as you said, like, I don't really need to have this. And if you are, and as they progress, typically through the grade levels, as they increase, the use of Canvas increases as the grade level increases.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Any other questions?
Does the system allow parents and child to log in at the same time?
Sure. It's not the same account.
The child's account.
Yeah, so you're,
Parents
no.
logging in as a child, is it off the child?
I've never tested that.
You're not the only person I've heard that before, that I'm logging in as my child.
Okay, yeah, with the observer account, that was one of the big reasons we want to go with the observer account, so that you wouldn't need to do that.
I would say they shouldn't be.
Right.
One of the reasons to be the observer.
Yeah.
Was to create some integrity to the student account.
Right.
So that parents aren't doing anything to submit for their kids.
The other thing that's handy about having an observer account is this. Twice a year, we do a mandatory password change. This week, that's happening for all staff. When the students return, it'll be happening for them. If you have an observer account, you don't have to ask them what's your new password, because your password will still work. And that would happen, at least twice a year, we do those patch campaigns. But as Pat said, yeah, we like parents to use the Observer accounts in order to get the information. And again, you're seeing everything they're saying with the exception of those discussions. You're just not able to submit them. So that speaks to the intent of the as well. Yes?
Sir, thanks very much for the overview. And on behalf of myself, anyway, and probably every parent here, thank you for the suite of technology that you offer. It's quite impressive for what you're offering and parents. So my question is, with regard to the Canvas, this Observer, currently right now it's an opt-in system. Given the potential usefulness of it, is there any thought to just making it an opt-out process in the future?
The way they can, it's an interesting idea because as I mentioned the number, it's not incredibly high right now, right? 90, So this is the cleanest way to basically make sure that it works reliably. Canvas is working. Canvas, when it first was developed, was a university lab. It was out of Utah. It's used by the most university and colleges in the United States, actually, currently. They broke into the K-12 market about 8 years ago. And they're still learning, is my experience, about the difference in some ways. And I can see that being an improvement that they can make would be an easier way to say, like, let's mass enroll all of the parents and make those pairings already work. At this point, they're not there yet, so this is the cleanest way to do it. But thank you for your kind words about our technology. Yes?
Is there a way for parents to see like the browsing history, like without logging on?
So it's a great question. Who wouldn't be curious about that? I'm just saying. So there's another software that we use that we are now beta testing for parent accounts. It is called GoGuardian. So your GoGuardian accounts are those students that are using a Chromebook or log into their accounts, their school accounts from home if they're on a Chrome browser. It tracks and filters everything that they're doing. It allows teachers, and that's an instructional point, to say like, all right, I want you all to go to this website and just push it out to them. Instead of like, is that a 1 or an L? And I got to the wrong thing, so it frees up a lot of time that way. So they just announced last year, and now we're beta testing it, as they said, with a few parents, parent accounts for GoGuardian. And the interesting thing about that is, we have a couple of the parents that are part of the beta, are part of the Citizens Advisory Committee for Technology, and the feedback so far has been very good. It would allow you to see that history outside of school hours. So what you do is you declare a school day, and ours is 7 to 4, right? And then outside of 4 o'clock, you can see what they're doing, and you can control it in a sense the way a teacher would. So you can set a curfew. You can say, they're not going to be able to log into the Chromebook after 10 p.m., 9 p.m., whatever it would be. And then that would apply to your son or daughter's use of their account. So that was something we've been asked about, especially as it relates to, I don't know if they're using it late at night, and just, keeping them up at night, too much screen time. So I think that is a great product, and we're thinking late spring as a rollout for that one, or first thing in the fall. And if you'd be interested in being a beta tester on that, shoot me an email. I've got a handful, but I could use more. And we will set you up then. Yes?
Following on that, can you just comment about the restrictions and limitations within their Canvas account as to what they actually can access? They don't have complete open internet, correct?
Less their Canvas account, so the Canvas account gets them into CanvasNet platform. So that's just the content that's on Canvas itself. But through their school network accounts and through GoGuardian, correct. So when they're on site, when they're in a building, we have 2 different filters on. We have our firewall that sets filtering for what sites can be visited or not. That's me, maybe not. And then we have GoGuardian, which also has its list of, it's usually determined by categories, so we block all social media. We block purchasing sites for students. And we have to open a few every year for Ms. Sharp's business classes so that they can actually use them legitimately. And then even off-site, the GoGuardian filter is in place, so all of those things are filtered. I will give this caveat with any filter. Like all technology, it's basically an arms race, and there are people that are out there trying to put up sites that can be gotten to, and there are students that are clever that will look for ways to jump from one site to another, so it doesn't look like they're coming from our site in order to try to defeat those methods. But it's a very good filter, and it does guard your son's daughter's
I can say any one of me, because I'm actually on as an adult, not a faculty member on the campus more than
Yes,
others.
it's subject.
But if I'm on the MWN network and I want to check an Amazon account or an eBay account, I can't do it.
Yes.
So it really does work not just for the campus
Yes.
account.
Yeah, and that's our, so yeah, that's the firewall that does all of our Wi-Fi filtering, and as Pat said, anyone that's on our network, even guests, their content is filtered.
That's a great question. So, are they going to GoGuardian through their login or through their hardware?
They're going at it through the browser they use. So if they are on, if they're on a Chromebook, that automatically launches into the Chrome browser, and that is what is being monitored through GoGuardian. If they're on a PC that's in district, there's a GoGuardian client that's been loaded on that desktop, so they're being observed no matter what they're doing on a desktop.
So, if you're using your own MacBook, and not using your Chromebook, are you circumcising that?
So this is interesting.